The American dream has a powerful message. Work hard in this country and you will be rewarded. But of course that's far from the truth. The gap between top and bottom in American society is huge and growing, and a poor child's chance of making a better life than their parents is amongst the lowest in the developed world. On the final leg of my education road trip, I'm heading back east to learn about this rising inequality and whether American schools are part of the solution or part of the problem. Large fortunes pass across this trading floor every day, and at the heart of it is George Weiss. Martial arts champion, former presidential advisor, a man who's made plenty of cash and is ploughing tens of millions of dollars back into his education program. He's helping several hundred lucky kids in schools scattered across America. Could I ask you, why do you put your money into education? Why not invest in kind of water pumps in Africa, for example?
The morale of the school system, especially in the inner city, is so low that they really have no expectations. And you tell the kid you're not going to be anything, the kid never becomes anything. 25% of kids in the worst part of the urban school systems graduate high school. And that's a tragic number, and that's what we're working very hard, to overcome. We have to do something, and it has to start with a family. You can't force people to do certain things, but what happens is if the family starts feeling good about themselves, good things happen. And our recent 3 programs, 85% of the kids, roughly 85% of the kids are graduating high school. That's huge, 3 times the norm. We're showing college graduation rates that are 8 times the norm.
Now, I wonder, do you entertain ideas of, really transforming education? Because there could be those who would say to you, yeah, but what you're doing is just a drop in the ocean.
That's a fair comment, okay? What we're trying to do is we now have 786 kids in our program. But when you take them and their families, and the families, that are the second and third cousins, so you may have an opportunity to, influence thousands, but thousands is still a drop in the bucket.
George Weiss's determination to help deprived kids reach their potential is the kind of thing that does renew your faith in the human race. But the education system can't rely on passing millionaires to bring opportunity into all failing schools. Those in power are making systematic attempts to tackle the problems. Here in New York, the mayor has assumed control and a huge reform program is now underway. But struggling urban schools are a major national issue for the United States. I'm leaving New York City now and heading for my final destination, a 3-hour train ride to the nation's capital. This is the grand upscale city of Washington, D.C., the seat of government, but ironically also the place that houses some of the worst schools in America. The federal government has very limited power over America's schools. Responsibility for education falls to the individual states. But the health of the nation's urban schools is high on the agenda at the White House. I'm right on the President's doorstep to meet Katie Haycock, an education policy guru who's been studying urban education nationwide. Is there a crisis in public schools?
There's a pretty serious crisis in our public schools. Frankly, results in general for all of our kids are not nearly as good as they should be. But results for our low-income children and our minority children are much worse than that. We talk a good game about opportunity. But if you look at what happens to low-income children, they get less of everything in school. I mean, we spend less in their schools. They have less well-educated and experienced teachers. They have a lower-level curriculum. They put kids in classes with the same names but with different content. We have this deeply inequitable system, and we got to fix that.
Tell us a bit about some of the reforms that have been attempted.
We have this new No Child Left Behind, and so there's a new, heavier demand for results. Added to that is support for charter schools. The idea was that we needed some kind of break-the-mold schools that would help to figure out how, especially with kids who are not doing so well in school, how we could get them to better results. And that's really important. Poor and minority kids are half of our young people. We cannot afford to have half of our young people poorly educated. It's not good for them, and it's not good for our country.
Charter schools are often cited as the inspiration for our academies, funded by the state system but free to innovate. There are 3,200 of them nationwide, 4% of the state-funded schools. I've arranged to visit one whose table-topping results have got everyone talking. Key Academy is run by a charity called KIP, short for the Knowledge is Power programme, which now has 52 schools across the country. It's Peter Curran from Teachers TV with the film crew.
Okay.
Thanks. From the moment you arrive, you sense that this place is a little bit different. And as a visitor, I'm following in some revered footsteps.
Sound off. 1, 2. Sound off. 3, 4. Sound off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 14, 21.
The principal, Sarah Hayes, explained how the place works.
We believe that all children can learn and can be successful and can succeed. And what it's going to take is just a lot of hard work, because a lot of our kids come from backgrounds where they haven't been successful in school, or maybe there's family situations that are preventing them from doing their best. And we believe that hard work from the teachers, dedicated staff, and motivated kids can really inspire an educational revolution.
This is a middle school, but the kids are given their high school graduation date on arrival. The expectation is drilled into all of them. Each one should go to college. They even have an alumni office, which will help find the best high school places and continue to support pupils long after they've left this school. Having established the college dream, the school pursues turning it into reality with gusto. They operate from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 6 days a week, and there's a mandatory summer school too. The starting point is reparenting the kids.
We do start with the very basics, with what hard work looks like. Sitting up straight, raising your hand, participating, and what being nice looks like. A lot of our kids come with bad habits, and they're either bad habits because they were at public schools where they didn't have expectations, or they had very mediocre expectations. And so there is an element of reteaching some learned behaviors.
Good behaviour is rewarded with KIP dollars to spend in the school shop. Bad behaviour puts you on the bench. A sticker tells other kids that they can't talk to you until your parent or guardian has come in and the issue been resolved. They've even got their own KIP system of hand signals. The place might demand a lot of the kids, but there are no shortcuts or excuses for the teachers either. I gather that all the students here have your own cell phone, mobile phone, so they can call you at all times of the day, weekends, the whole bit. Do you not think that's sort of encroaching a little bit on your own personal time?
Well, they're not allowed to call after 9 o'clock. In that sense, no, because I mean, it's something that I care a lot about, my students doing well, and so it's an extra way that I can help them.
Do you think there's a certain type of teacher that will work within a KIP school as opposed to working in one of the other public schools? What are the qualities that you need to bring here?
Well, you do need to be willing to make sure that you are working sort of outside of the typical school hours. Be willing to go the extra mile to do whatever it takes. Oh, neat.
The school gets the same public funding as all state schools in Washington, plus some philanthropic donations. But the way that it works is radically different. It's the charter school status that allowed the KIP founders to set up their schools in this way.
Well, you couldn't have KIPP if it weren't a charter school, because one of the pillars of KIPP schools are power to lead, and that means that I have the power to hire and fire teachers, so I can make sure they have the most talented teachers in the country working here, and then if they're not rising to our expectations, that they're not going to be working here. I need the power to dictate the budget and what we spend our money on, the power to figure out our curriculum to make sure it works for our students, and the power to extend the school day, to extend the school year. So if we weren't a charter school, I wouldn't be able to make all these changes that I think really help student achievement.
High achievement is making KIPP schools popular. Last year they had 350 applications from all over the city for just 90 places. There's no selection, so entrance is, quite literally, a lottery. Some people believe that far from creating equality of opportunity, these schools are actually making things worse. The Save Our Schools Coalition is a community group which campaigns for Washington's regular state schools, which they believe charters are undermining.
It's ultimately really damaging and not doing anything to address problems of poverty or inequality.
Well, I think charters have flourished because people are so desperate. The community's desperate because the system is crumbling.
If you ask people who have been born and raised here, they'll tell you that the schools were excellent. In terms of the public school system for black youth, this was one of the best systems. Now, as we had long-term underfunding and the schools have run down, charter schools are contributing to the decay of the traditional public school system, so that's the problem, is the usurping of resources from the traditional public school.
The campaigners believe that the competition charter schools like KIPP bring will not create equality for all, but give opportunity to some at the expense of the rest.
You can't have a leveling of the playing field because you have a situation where you have a charter school movement competing with the traditional public school system. When there is competition in education, there's winners and losers. You have separate but unequal systems now.
But for the kids who get there, a charter school like KIPP is a rich opportunity. Before I leave, I'm travelling back into the centre of Washington to meet a group of students who've already completed their time at KIPP. Roger, Ashley and Million have all gained places at good high schools. If you were asked to describe what it was that the KIPP school gave you that maybe friends that go to public schools in the area don't get, what would it be?
Without KIPP, I would have been at my neighborhood school, and that really was not a good school. So, it helped me prepare. It really helped me prepare for my future.
If you go back to your neighbourhood and stuff, and there's guys maybe that didn't go to KIPP, what sort of happened to their education? Those that weren't able to get into KIPP?
Well, they'll say KIPP was a waste of time because you have to be there so early and you're there so late. And I always tell them that it's worth it because I already know I'm gonna get somewhere unlike them. Because some people I used to hang around with, some of them already dropped out of school and they're on the streets and stuff.
You know, America's supposed to be the land of opportunity. Do you think it's still a land of opportunity in terms of education?
Yes, because America was built on the idea that you could raise not only your social status, but your education level, and you weren't restricted.
I think that as long as you're willing to work hard, you can do whatever you want to do. As long as you're willing to fight for whatever you want to do, then you can do it.
Talking to these kids, it was clear that KIPP hasn't just given them good grades. It's built up their faith in the American dream. But the belief that anyone can succeed here if they try hard enough relies on all being given a fair chance. And although schools like KIPP bring new opportunities to some, it seems to me that until the inequalities that corrode the education system are removed, there will be children who have failed before they even start.